What's up guys, it's Thomas from RohmerFitness, and in today's video I want to share with you 7 of the biggest muscle building mistakes. So let's go ahead and get right into it with number 1, and that's going to be eating too many calories. So a lot of times when guys want to build muscle, they want to get there as fast as possible, so they just start eating everything in sight. And that's really a bad idea because it's going to lead to excess fat gain, and with all that extra fat you're putting on, guess what? You're going to have to cut it eventually. So here's the reality. You can generally expect to build about half a pound of muscle a week. And, if you're storing body fat, that literally means you're eating too many calories by definition, because body fat, when you gain fat, it's stored energy. It's energy that your body didn't use, which means it didn't need those extra calories to build muscle. So you're just eating too much and it's wasting your time. So instead, what you need to do is you need to eat the right amount of calories. So generally, I recommend eating, around 250 calories above your maintenance level. And if you stick to that, you should generally gain around half a pound a week. And if your training and recovery and all that other stuff is in check, then you should start being good to go in the muscle building. Now, the second one is going to be eating everything in sight, eating whatever you want because you're bulking. And that's another really bad excuse. You shouldn't get to eat whatever you want, whenever you want, just for the sake of bulking. Because again, it's going to lead to all that excess fat gain. And once you gain all of that fat, guess what you're going to eventually have to do? Cut it down, burn it off, and that's just a pain. It's much easier to just get lean in the first place, stay lean, and then focus on building muscle over time. And that kind of ties into the third point, which is you have to be patient and you have to understand that building muscle is a slow process. It's not a very fast process. So like I was saying, generally, ideally, you could build about half a pound of muscle, naturally, without having to worry about any excess fat gain. Anything more than that, really, you are going to be at a higher risk for gaining fat. And once again, you're going to have to cut it down eventually. So what I recommend is just be patient from the get-go. Understand that building all this muscle doesn't happen overnight. If you look at these transformations of people, you'll generally see it's like a 6-month transformation, a year-long transformation. It takes time for people to get to their end goal. So you really just need to be patient and focus on the process and the day-to-day basis of getting the job done for that day. Now, the next one is going to be focusing more on the pump instead of focusing on getting stronger. So you go to the gym, you do all these high reps, you get that pump going in your arms, it feels really good, but then when the pump goes away, what are you left with? Nothing. When instead you really need to be focusing on getting stronger and progressive overload, because this is how your muscles grow. They're going to adapt to the stresses placed on them. So if you're constantly placing heavier stress, heavier amounts of workload on them, by using more weight or doing more, reps with the same amount of weight, and then eventually, increasing the weight, you're going to get bigger. That's the key, not the pump. Next, training using pyramids. I really don't like training with pyramids because they kind of suck. I mean, think about it. For those of you who don't know what a pyramid is, it's where you start with a really light weight and you do a high amount of reps, like 12 to 15, for example, and then you'll use a little bit heavier weight and do maybe 8 reps, and then next set you'll do an even heavier weight for 6 reps, and then finally you'll do the heaviest amount of weight for like 3 to 5 reps or whatever. But the problem with that is by the time you finally get to that last set, when you're supposed to be doing the heaviest amount of weight, you're already really fatigued, and that's going to hinder the amount of weight that you can lift in the first place. So instead, I kind of like doing the opposite, where you start with the heaviest amount of weight for the least amount of reps, and then lighter weight but more reps. So that way, you're doing your higher rep stuff with something that's supposed to be a lower weight in the first place, instead of fatiguing yourself, and by the time you're supposed to be doing this heavy weight, you're using less weight than you could have originally done if you just started there. So it really doesn't make a lot of sense to train like that. Now, number 6 is neglecting your recovery. So I think we just have this tendency to forget about recovery and the fact that when we go to the gym, that's where we break down our muscles, and then It's going to be outside of the gym where it repairs itself and builds itself up bigger and stronger. So, you need to make sure you're getting enough sleep. You need to make sure you're drinking enough water. And, you need to make sure you're not absolutely obliterating yourself in the gym 6 times a week. I really think that, you can maintain a great physique on, 2 times a week, but I think you can make, some pretty good gains on 3 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week. But I think 6, that's kind of pushing it. Lifting weights 6 times a week. I'm not talking about cardio here, but I really think that 6 times a week is just kind of killing it a little bit too much. I would kind of stick more in that 3 to 5 range, and then just focusing again more on the recovery aspect and not totally neglecting it. I'm guilty of that a lot of times, and I'm sure you might be as well, but obviously it's important to remember that recovery is where our muscles actually grow. And finally, the last one is thinking that you have to rely on supplements to build muscle. Now, I made a video about this earlier, and you can check it out by clicking around here somewhere. But the main point I wanted to make is that you don't need any supplements to build muscle or to burn fat. Now, of course, there are a couple that I recommend. I really like creatine. I really like protein powder. I think those two are going to give you some nice benefits in your muscle building journey. And you can also experiment with like a fish oil or a branched chain amino acid as well if you want to. But none of those are really necessary to build muscle. Instead, I would focus more on your training and your nutrition, and just focusing on the consistency with that. And then if you want to use the supplements more as a little additional benefit once all that other stuff is in place, then I would go ahead and do that. But don't rely on the supplements to help you reach your end goal, because they are not required. So there you have it, guys. 7 of the biggest mistakes that are holding you back from making gains. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Also, while you're at it, go ahead and subscribe to my channel so that way you can stay up to date with my latest tips and videos. And other than that, I'll be talking to you next time. Peace.